Yes, my names are Stephen Parkwal. I'm the chairperson of National Education Committee of the SPLM, SPLA. Well, we are in the year 2015, and unlike in the year 2014, 13, one thing were not clear. The genesis of the crisis has been studied well, and there have been a lot of public pronouncement about it. We now know what caused this crisis. This crisis was caused by philosophical differences within the SPLM leadership. We had the reformers within the party who want to democratize the political process within the party. And the forces of the status quo who are still insisting that there can never be democracy in the SPLM. So it is started in Juba with these two ideas. One group, the democratic group, led by Dr. Riek Machar, Paganamum, Mama Rebecca, just came up with this idea that we go to the convention, which must be now more democratic than all the other processes that we went through before. And that was resisted. The way the legal document of the party were developed and the way the preparation for the convention was conducted in Juba has a lot to do with the crisis itself. It was supposed to be a very smooth process in which leadership of the SPLM would be elected democratically by members of the SPLM. Unfortunately, the commander-in-chief of the SPLA, who is actually the chairman of the SPLM, used military force to suppress the democratic voices within the party. That is the genesis of everything. What followed was that the chairman of the party, he started to rule by degrees, removing members of the party by degrees. He was allowed to do whatever he wanted in his government because that was constitutionally his authority. But when he came up with these ideas that he wanted to dissolve the structures of the SPLM, and that he wanted to dismiss anybody that he wanted to dismiss, and that he involved the military in the whole thing, and political detention, this is when now the crisis became the crisis it is today. This is the genesis of the crisis. We have said all along that within the SPLM as a party, we need to reform our structures. We need to reform the political process. We need to establish institution within the party, because you cannot give what you don't have. The SPLM until now is structurally weak. It has been run from the top. The members did not have input in what was actually happening. Only the political bureau was functioning. We said in Addis, and we have defined the problem of our country as lack of competent national structures, both in the party and in the government. So our agenda in Addis has always been that of reform and democratization of political process in the country. So if you can just break it down as an agenda, of course, which is stemmed from the policy of the party, of the SPLM, SPLA, are reform, accountability, and democratization of the political process. This is the agenda we presented in Addis, we presented an agenda of institutional reform in the government. And we made presentations, so many presentations on this, that we need a new national army, a new security sector, a reform one, that can provide security for the people of South Sudan, because we need to sign an agreement in which we will not go back to war. We need an agreement that will be enshrined in the Constitution of South Sudan to reform the institution and democratize the political process. Is about institutional reform. But then it came down to power sharing, because for us to reform our institution, there must be a transitional power which is shared not only by the warring parties, but by all other parties in South Sudan, a transitional government that will give the people of South Sudan an opportunity to elect their own leaders at the end of the interim period, and will also give them the opportunity to write their own constitution. Because the current constitution we have, we call it Constitution of Technocrat and the Constitution of the Government of the Day. During the transitional period, we will have an opportunity for the people of South Sudan to write their own constitution. During the transitional period, we will have institutions that will reform the political process through rewriting of the new constitution. We will also reform other civil service institutions. And in the transitional period, we will be able also to reform our security sector. That means we will complete integration or amalgamation of our forces within the interim period. So when we go to the election, we go to the election with a country whose institutions are reformed, a country with one army, a constitution, a country that has one security sector, which is competent to guide our democratic elections. At the end of the interim period, we should also have more competent institution, civil service institution, than what we have now. That is the agenda we presented in Addis. When we dropped down from, Salva Kiir must go, we said, let us share power with the status quo, but with the idea to reform the institution. We have been saying this, that this is sheer propaganda, that we wanted two armies for the same country. What we have said in our security arrangement agenda is that we need to reform the security sector. What is security sector? Security sector includes the national army, the national security, the organized forces. Where are they today in the country? We know that after December 13, actually, what happened after December 15, when the crisis occurred, the army, the SPLA proper, is split into two. A chunk of it has gone to the bushes of South Sudan and have continued this army struggle. They were also joined by a portion of the organized forces, including the national security. So all these, organs of the security forces are also with us, and part of them are now with the government. So what we say, let us amalgamate this and make them one for all of us and for other parties that do not also have armies. This thing that SPLM, SPLA is still more SPLA than SPLM is something we are working now to change. We will have a national army that has nothing to do with parties. An SPLM that does not have an army at the end of the day. This is what we are fighting for. We will have a national army that will secure our borders for us. We will have a national security that will provide security for all of us, not like today, when our people are killing themselves in lakes and in Warabs, in Jonglei, and all this. Western Equatoria, all over the country. We need a competent security, public security sector that will provide public security for our people, not for the party. We also need a national security that will actually not be used to persecute other political parties like the current government is doing. The SPLM as a ruling party rigging the election using the national security. This should not repeat itself. These are the things we need to put in place. Those who say that we are fighting for, a country with two armies are just misrepresenting our position. But what we have said, and is proven, is that after December 15th, our national army has disintegrated. And our national security has also disintegrated. To pick these pieces, we need to form a new national army, new public security, new organized forces. All these institutions need to be reformed and need to be reconstituted. We made that very clear in Addis. Well, this power sharing is not just about power. It's about actually restructuring the country. And if the government in Juba want it all, we are saying as reformers that they cannot do it alone. We are the agents of that reform. So we must be represented in the power structures of that transitional government that will reform the institutions. They are the status quo and they want to maintain it. But we are saying the status quo has killed our people. The status quo has failed to develop our economy and infrastructure and provide social services for our people. We need a new regime with new power structures. But the end game is not actually getting power for the sake of getting power. What we are demanding in the power sharing is not an impossible demand. It is a possible thing because we have accepted Salva Kiir in that transitional government to be the head of the transitional administration. So why should it be impossible for Riek Machar also to exercise some executive powers, to share power with Salva Kiir, so that we take the people of South Sudan to the next stage of what made the last round of talk collapse was because the government actually reneged from most of the points that we discussed with them. Some of the things that they have agreed to when the two principals met, because we have exhausted the negotiation. Now, the mediation had to bring in the two principals, who are, of course, Salva Kiir and Dr. Riek Machar. They met. Even the thing that we agreed upon in the thematic committees, Salva Kiir rejected all of them, including federalism, which they have acknowledged to be actually a popular demand of the people of South Sudan. They have also reneged on these security arrangements, in which they agreed to, monitoring and assembling of the forces. Most of the progress that we have made in the security committees, they reneged from them. When it also come to the structure, the structure of the transitional government, they have accepted, for example, in Arusha, that they will reinstate everybody to the structures of the SPLM, in which Dr. Riek will be the first deputy. Now, in Addis, when we were negotiating as parties who will form the same government, now they also reneged from what they have offered in Arusha. Because the question that many people will be asking is, if you accept to work with me in the party, what is wrong also with working with you? Arusha was a victory for the SPLM as a whole. It was also a victory for the people of South Sudan. So nobody should always run away with it. And even those who are attacking it cannot make their case also against it, because it is all positive. What happened in Arusha was that we sat down as the SPLM, three factions of the SPLM. The SPLM in the government, the SPLM in the opposition, and the former detainees, the SPLM leaders. We sat down and reviewed the history of the SPLM, all the good things that we have done together, and all the bad things that we have done together against the people of South Sudan. And we came out with an agreement that we will take responsibilities as a party for all what has been inflicted on the people of South Sudan, including the destruction of the social fabric of the society. And we say the SPLM will go back to the people of South Sudan and apologize. That was a good thing. The other thing we have also managed to resolve in Arusha is that we have committed ourselves to democratic institution of the SPLM. We committed ourselves to democratization of the internal political process within the SPLM, because we acknowledge that SPLM has been dictatorial, SPLM has been disorganized. We say, let us organize the SPLM. Let us democratize its structures. Let us actually renew its ideology that brought the independence of South Sudan. Let us review what has gone wrong in the SPLM. And we came up with that agreement. If you look at that agreement, there is nothing against anybody in South Sudan, whether you are in the IO, in the government, or you are with the FDs. Because what we have said was a collective recognition of what we have done wrong. Because in fact, if we talk the way we talked in Juba before the crisis, the way we talked in Arusha, there could have been no war in the country. Because the political leadership of the SPLM could have been elected by the members of the SPLM democratically. And there would have been no war. Because there was nothing wrong with somebody like Pagana Mum to say that I want to be the next chairperson of the SPLM. There was nothing wrong with Rebecca de Mabior saying that I want to be the chairperson of the SPLM. There was nothing wrong with Dr. Riek to say, I'm the next chairperson of the SPLM, and I want to be elected into that position. Salva Kiir could have just said the same thing, that I'm your chairman and I want to continue. So this is what was supposed to be done in Juba. And instead of doing this, the commander-in-chief of the army, who is the chairman of the party, used the state power to crush the political process within the party. And that's where we all went wrong. We corrected that in Arusha. So Arusha is a victory for all of us. There are a lot of provisions in Arusha that should be accepted by everybody. Because in Arusha, we have come down actually to our senses and acknowledge what we have done wrong. Not only this, we came up with a way forward. The way forward to reform the party. The way forward to fix the country. In fact, as I said, the Arusha document was a good document. And if you look at the metrics, it was supposed to be implemented right away. But when the SPLM leadership in the government arrived in Juba, they immediately denounced it. And what we heard from the media was totally different from what we discussed in Arusha, totally different from what we signed. So it is actually a good thing now that SPLM Juba has come to its senses and implement what we sign. Because what should have happened right away was actually revocation of the dismissal of the top leaders of the party. It is good that this now has been done. We can take it from where we are now to implement the rest of the provision. And we can actually take the Arusha to Addis Ababa now. Also, with the total aim of fixing the country. Because if we agreed to reform, we agreed to reinstatement of the political leaders of the SPLM in the party, and we have agreed to democratization of the political process within the party. Of course, the reason why South Sudan is the way it is today is because we created South Sudan in our image as SPLM. If what we have said, what we discuss in Arusha, and we sign into document, is implemented even in the institutional structure of our government, then we will fix the country. Because there is nothing that we have not said in Arusha that can actually help the political, the institutional reform and the security sector reform in the country. Because in Arusha, we have committed ourselves to one thing which is very important, that SPLM will have no army. We will be a conventional political party that discuss issues civilly. Arusha has provided that. So Arusha has actually addressed the root causes of the crisis. I want to hear from anybody who is against Arusha, and convince me that you have done a bad thing in Arusha. By the way, G10 are our comrades in arms. G10s are heroes of the SPLA war. And so we call them our comrades in arms. Today, if they denounce arms and they become politicians without arms, we don't have a problem with this. And we have made this very clear that we will never accept that the G10s are our enemies. We started the whole thing in Juba. And the philosophical differences now that they said we are using wrong way, to struggle, that armed struggle should cease. They are not convincing us in that argument, because the reason why we are in this armed struggle is because we were pushed to do it. So we have been doing it the Juba way, because in Juba, you don't talk if you don't have arms. What happened during the crisis that they were detained? Some of us were killed. Some of us escaped with their guns. If the other parties who are against the armed struggle are just telling us to lay down our arms so that we have a peaceful, democratic country, that is a fundamental philosophical difference. We don't believe in this. But that does not make us enemies. We believe that we can complement, because at the end of the day, what is it that we want in South Sudan? Multi-party democracy. They don't have to wage an armed struggle for them to be our allies, even. Let me put it like that. You can struggle the way you know how to, in your own way, as long as the ultimate goal is actually to change the country. Where we disagreed is that there is only one way to struggle, which is their way of doing it. That is it. But at the end of the day, we need a country where people differ, but civilly and peacefully. This is what was not allowed by Salva Kiir regime in Juba. If he allowed this, differences to coexist within the party. What we know of the conventional modern political parties is that within the same party you can have so many platforms. I've seen it in the United States, where in the Democratic Party you have lefties, righties, centuries, but you are still the same party. So the problem is not philosophical differences within the party. And a huge party, a mass movement like the SPLM, is bound to have differences. But our problem is, how do we handle our differences? Do we handle our differences by using the state power to crush the party, like Comrade Salva Kiir did in December 2013? We say no. This is the wrong way to do it. But with G10, we still see them as comrades. And there is no way we can see them as enemies or see us as enemies. We have a policy of engaging all the political parties in the country. And our chairman has just formed a committee. I'm a member of that committee. It's a committee led by Comrade Honorable Henry Odwar. I deputize him with the membership of Ambassador Lumumba and Comrade Elijah Tut. This is based on our policy of engaging all other political parties in the country, including the G10. Anybody who is for reform and changes and democracy in the country, we see that person as our partner, in the peacemaking process and in the process of democratizing the political process in the country. That is the policy of the IO. Engagement of all the parties. The war has taken almost 2 years, and the war is engulfing the country. We know if this war continues the way it is, it will break our country into pieces. And it will be very difficult for anyone in the future to pick those pieces. We are aware that the social fabric of our society is destroyed. We need to rebuild it. We need to reconstruct the social fabric of our society. That is a responsibility of every citizen of South Sudan. There is a need for healing. And another thing that my colleagues and my good friends, Majaga got called emotional cleansing, that we need to cleanse, our hearts so that we allow the nation to heal. This is something that Dr. Riek Machar himself has started it way back in 2012, 2013. He wanted a comprehensive program of national healing. This is what we need during the transitional period. God willing, if we sign peace agreement, we will come back together again as a family of South Sudan. And for the healing to take place, we need to forgive one another. But we also need to ensure that there is accountability for all the crime committed so that we don't repeat the same thing in the future. This is the only message I can give to the people of South Sudan. We need civil society organization to be active. We need the clergy to be active. And we need our youth not to be divided along tribal lines. We need independent opinions to change the country. There is no way you can actually attain democracy without vibrant, united civil society to take this country forward and leave behind what has happened and move forward. Because as I said, we don't allow this country to collapse. If it collapses completely, it may be totally difficult to the release of the EU Commission of Inquiry reports. This is very important because we can account to what happened only when we have concrete evidence against those who have committed crimes. This thing that there must be peace first. Yes, peace is important. The importance of the peace agreement that we signed and the formation of a new government is not a government that will protect people from the crime that they have committed. We need, like all the post-war, post-conflict countries, what you need a well-structured environment for peace, but with accountability within it. You don't stop accountabilities so that you have peace, then peace without accountability. Then you will not have healing. In South Africa, for example, they did not wait, for the transitional period to finish so that, the truth and reconciliation is realized. They were taking place simultaneously. In Rwanda, it was the same thing. The hybrid courts was working as the hybrid courts in Arusha and Gachacha process were taking place at the same time when the nation was healing. You go to Rwanda today, Rwanda is a stable, developing country with a vibrant institution. But the accountability process is still going on until today. And it started from day one. When the new government was formed, the new government ensured that justice and accountability also go hand in hand with the peace building. This is what we talked about in Addis, and this is very important. This theory that once you are in the position of power, that the power will protect you without accounting for what has happened, this will not make the nation heal. This is my opinion as a citizen of South Sudan, and also as one of the leaders in this party, that the Commission of Inquiry report must come out. There must be peace agreement, but it must be a peace agreement that provide an environment for peace itself, for justice and accountability. If there is anybody who fears the release of these, reports, and anybody that fears justice process in the country, that person must be actually he must be part of the wrong element who want this war and the conflict to continue. This is what I will tell them. And let them also present to me their version that let there be peace without accountability. And let us see if there will actually be healing process that will take place without justice and accountability. Let them tell me this. And I don't think that they will convince anybody. Yes, it is a philosophical issue now in the School of Criminal Justice that there is this restorative justice and punitive justice, that punitive justice destroyed the fabric of society and restorative justice can just restore. No, in this case, it will not work. We need, accountability that will also bring a restorative process to peace and healing. I would just say thank you very much. I think this has given us opportunity to say the unsaid. That what divide is what is unsaid. The SPLM is just very clear on this reform, justice, accountability, and the national healing. This is our agenda.